Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of Sean's Movie Crusades. My name is Sean Waskrug and I'm here to review all the latest movies in theaters as well as any as you recommend, whether they be recent movies or old school films. Today is a special episode as we're not reviewing anything per se, but we are actually going over the worst movies of 2018. Now, before we jump into the list, go ahead and hit that like and share and subscribe button so that way you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that are dropping on the channel. And also head on over to Facebook and like Sean's Movie Crusades and follow it over there so that way you guys stay up to date when any new videos drop. Today we are doing the worst movies of 2008. Now, I'm personally not a fan of doing videos like this. I personally like doing most disappointed movies of the year, which I will be doing a video like that because I hate going out there and saying these are the absolute worst movies of the year because I don't necessarily go out and try to watch bad films. If I know they're bad, I'm just not going to watch them for the most part. And on this list, there are two movies in particular that I heard how bad they were, and frankly, I didn't watch them. And I knew that they were going to be the worst films of the year, and I just didn't want to waste my time doing it. So that's why I don't normally like doing these lists, but these were recommended to do. Since I do a top films list, everyone's like, you should do a worst one. I explained my reasons why I don't like it, but they wanted it anyway. So I'm going to try to do this video quick, because I don't like talking about movies that I hate. Disappointment is entirely different. Disappointment could be some movies that I still enjoyed for the most part, but they didn't live up to the expectations that I was putting them on as they happened. They aren't necessarily bad films. I mean, some of them are, but they are movies that I was expecting so much out of them, and they just greatly disappointed me. Worst movies are just movies that are just so downright bad that I just despise them to a point. Now, so like I said, I'm going to try to get through this list quick. Of course I say that, but you all know who watch the channel that I tend to ramble. And especially if it's on something that I'm passionate about, I tend to talk quite a bit. So the plan is to keep this short. Whether or not that happens is not kind of out of my hands to a point. So let's go ahead and get started. This is going to be the top 5 worst movies of the year, in my opinion. 2 of these movies on the list I have not personally seen, but from reviews and just my general opinion of the trailers alone, I knew that they were going to be the worst movies of the year. So that's why they're on the list. The other ones I have seen, and I just despise them in every way. I know a lot of people put a lot of hard work into these films, but sometimes there's just some movies that are so poorly put together that it makes you wonder if anyone was actually doing their jobs properly, or if anyone was actually, had the balls to tell the director, this movie sucks, you need to change this. And sometimes people don't do that, or they do that and the people are just too lazy to make any changes because it's going to cost money or take extra time. And frankly, I don't approve of that. If you see something wrong with the movie, especially if you work on the movie, and especially if you're the director, and your answer is, well, we can't change it because it's going to cost money, and then you still want to put that movie out, that's in terms of me a lazy director and lazy writers and stuff like that. If you're making a movie, you want that movie to be perfection, at least in your eyes, and to put out a movie that is just so downright bad, just speaks volumes to me as a person who just basically does not care about their craft. And some of these films are definitely, they probably thought they had a good movie on their hands, but they just aren't. And so that's kind of where we're going with this. Where I am going to have 2 honorable mentions, so it is 7 movies total. But basically, that's where we're going. The first one is honorable mention. A lot of people actually enjoyed this movie. It was okay for me, but the more and more I keep thinking about it, the more and more this movie annoys me. Love the main actor, and I'm just disappointed that he was in a movie so bad. I mean, he's been in worse films than this, but this one was just horrible, and that is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's Skyscraper. When I first saw the trailer for Skyscraper, I basically knew right away what this movie was going to be. and it was basically The Rock's version of Die Hard. Which, right then and there, I was like, well, it's The Rock. It could be good. But when you see a movie that's literally there to be a carbon copy of something, you already know you're not off to a good start. Especially when you're trying to mock something that's a classic like Die Hard. Reasons why this movie does not work is it's written horribly. They try to humanize The Rock in this so that way he's not The Rock by basically making him lose his leg. But he's still The Rock. I mean, one leg or two legs, the stuff he does in this movie is ridiculous. He climbs... it's been a while since I've seen the movie, and most of these movies I've only seen one time, and they've been a while, because, let's face it, they're not movies I want to see more than once. But The Rock climbs this crane in the movie. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Spoilers. This is a spoiler alert. I'm going to be bashing these movies, and I'm going to be talking about parts of these movies. If you haven't seen these movies yet, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm doing you a favor. Or, if you like watching bad movies, maybe I'm doing you another favor in terms of you wanting to check them out. But The Rock, with one leg in this movie, is climbing this crane, and he basically climbs this thing so damn fast. I'm sorry, people from American Ninja Warrior who are prime athletes could not climb this crane at the speed or pace that The Rock does. And The Rock, he's basically playing a retired SWAT or FBI SWAT guy who lost his leg. He's not like out there. I mean, he's The Rock. I mean, he's still built like a brick house. But it's not like he's a guy who's training or doing anything like that. He's a guy who sells security. He's a family man. So it's not like he's out there doing all these, crazy stunts or working out crazy hard. The character, not The Rock himself. The Rock works out a ton, and I commend him for that. But the character should not be doing this. Even with one leg, the dude should not be able to climb this crane at this level of speed. Not only that, once he gets up to the top of this crane, he then full sprint runs or hobbles because he's got one leg while being shot at from a helicopter and jumps off this crane and is magically able to land. I mean, he basically hits the side of the building, but the trajectory of The Rock's weight from where he jumped to the distance of the window, there is no mathematical plausible way that The Rock could ever do this. He should have fallen halfway between the crane and the building, and have plummeted to his death. But because it's The Rock, he's gonna make the catch. And this is in the trailer, and even then, it was ridiculous. But even with a man of his size with one leg, you had no chance of making this jump. So you have to kind of throw logic completely out the window. The cast, for the most part, is horrifically bad. Neve Campbell is really the only highlight of this movie. The Rock's not bad. Let's put it this way. The Rock's not bad acting. It's the story around him that's bad. The Rock's going out there doing the best that he's doing. He's doing ridiculous things, but that's part of the script. So I don't blame Dwayne The Rock Johnson for that. Neve Campbell's great in this movie, but she's criminally underused. She's basically the wife, but she does get her moments to shine as a badass character, but she could have been used a hell of a lot more. The villain in this film, first off, they chose the wrong villain. The best villain in this movie, they established right in the beginning, which was Dwayne's best friend. But they killed him off. In like 5 minutes after he's established as a bad guy, they kill him off. And he should have been the villain throughout the movie. The movie would have been 10 times better if there was actually a villain that The Rock... I mean, that's the whole point of Die Hard, is that you have one of the best villains of all time, Hans Gruber. And while, yes, he's a stranger to Bruce Willis, through the movie, they establish this relationship with one another. So when they actually finally do meet, it is a big showdown. And in this movie, there's none of that. This is just no-name terrorist guys. And there's one that is labeled the main bad guy just because he's the one that talks. And because he's the one that talks... and the one that barks orders, he's naturally the main bad guy. And he has zero charisma in this film. The only reason why The Rock really is even trying to stop him is because his family's in the building. But the villain is horrible throughout the entire film. The best villain was his best friend, but he dies pretty much right from the beginning. And the movie suffers from that. And the best friend is Pablo Schreiber. Maybe people know him from Orange is the New Black. He's porn stash in that. He was actually really good in a villain kind of way. There is another villain in the movie, but he's one of those villains that pretends to be good halfway through, but literally in the first scene of the film, you can tell that this guy's a traitor, and then he's gonna be bad. I mean, he's so bad, you might as well have a mustache and be twirling it in every scene of the film, because when he turns, they try to make it shock-worthy, and it's just like, well, no shit. He's the bad guy. And that guy is, Noah Taylor. He plays Mr. Pierce. The dude's horrible in this film. And not to mention that he's horrible in the film, but his character's an idiot in the movie as well. The Rock's children in this movie, apparently they couldn't get child actors who know how to act. These kids have I mean, they're drier than wood, their acting. They have no emotion. The most well-mannered children I've ever seen. There's literally one scene where the fire is in the building, and the daughter looks over to Neve Campbell and goes, literally at this base, "Mom, are we gonna die?" No, I'm sorry. Someone at her age would be crying or freaking out and asking that question, and not so monotone with the delivery. Because frankly, if the answer would have been yes, she probably would have went, "Okay." Like, that's how bad it was. Then there's certain situations where these kids are in where trees are falling down, and they're in a big fire, and they are calm as shit. I'm sorry. If you're at that age that these kids are doing, they would be pissing their pants, freaking out. And they are so chill that it's just unbelievably bad acting by these children. Also, I mean, the motivations of The Rock in this movie are also pretty bad. He was a SWAT FBI guy, so he uses guns in the beginning of the film. But for some reason, halfway through, whether it be because of his injury or whatever, he doesn't like guns anymore. He doesn't use guns. So at the end of the movie, where there's this epic battle, and I'm not calling it epic in terms of it being actually epic, but basically, there's this battle that's supposed to look epic, where he's going up against all the terrorist guys. They all have guns, and The Rock refuses to use any guns in this battle. You are fighting to save your daughter. You pick up a gun and you shoot these guys in the head. I don't care where your moral stance is. They have your daughter, and they're threatening to kill her. And you not picking up a gun to kill these people who have guns shooting at you is just idiotic and stupidly bad writing. And that drove me insane. There's also other bad characters in the movie. You have the owner of the building. He's played by Chin Han. He's Zhao Long Ji. He wants, just like the children, he has no emotional range at all in this movie. They have this side character, badass female bad guy, Z. She's played by Hannah Quinlivian. She's a badass, but she never once interacts with The Rock in this movie. She's literally there at the end, so you give something for Neve Campbell to do that's badass. You have these cops in the movie as well. I don't even know if Byron Maine, Inspector Wu. He's basically trying to be the Carl Winslow. I mean, I know he's not Carl Winslow in Die Hard, but Family Matters, you guys know who I'm talking about. Winston, I can't remember his full last name, but he's Carl Winslow in Family Matters. In Die Hard, they built that relationship between him and Bruce Willis, so at the end of the movie, when they finally meet, there's that friendship or that bond between them. And in this movie, you have Inspector Wu, who's literally just watching The Rock on cameras. The Rock has zero interaction with this guy through the entire film. And then at the end of the movie, when The Rock finally exits the building, they literally carbon copy rip the end of Die Hard and put it in this movie, except for slugging the guy at the end of Die Hard. They don't do that. But this Inspector guy comes up to The Rock, he's like, "It's nice to finally meet you." And you can see that The Rock's like, okay. Because The Rock has never had an interaction with this guy throughout the entire movie. This guy's had an interaction with The Rock's wife, Neve Campbell, in the film, but never once with The Rock. So to have that scene literally ripped from Die Hard and put into this movie is just utterly ridiculous and stupid. I already went too far into talking to this movie, but this movie just frustrates the hell out of me, and it's an honorable mention. A lot of people like the movie. I personally just can't stand it. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say about it. Skyscraper is an honorable mention. Another honorable mention... actually, no, wait. That was the only honorable mention. Number 5, worst movie of the year. I'm not going to jump too much into this because I already did a review for it, and if you guys really just want to see me just rip this movie apart, head on over to the videos and you'll see the review and have fun watching me just rip this movie up and down. And that is Robin Hood. The movie's just plain bad. The writing's atrocious. The acting is not up to par. It stars Taron Egerton as Robin Hood. But he's never called Robin Hood in the movie. He's called the Hood, or Robin of Locksley, or Rob to be cool. The writing is so piss poor in this film. You got Jamie Foxx who plays Little John. They basically, I mean, like I said, I could go into this with great detail. Head on over to the reviews, find my Robin Hood review. It's a full-on spoiler of me just trashing this movie the entire way through. Just so to save time on this video, Robin Hood, it's a horrible film. It's incredibly, just badly done in every sense of the word. If you want to see more about me talking about this movie, head on over, check out that review, and you'll see it there. Moving right along, the number 4 worst movie of the year. I remember actually being generally excited for this film because it popped up on the Super Bowl. And that is Cloverfield Paradox. I'm a huge fan of Cloverfield. That came out a few years back, directed by J.J. Abrams with the big monster, and it was all shot through a camera lens, so it was a handheld camera. I thought that movie was brilliant, and it was incredibly well done. And then J.J. Abrams decided, I'm going to make this a Cloverfield verse. And then he made another movie called 10 Cloverfield Lane with John Goodman and Mary Elizabeth Winstead. That was another fantastic film. I mean, the tacked on alien aspects at the end to make it a Cloverfield movie wasn't necessarily the best, but the movie all the way up to that point was fantastic. John Goodman should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor for that role, and it was an incredible movie. So when the Super Bowl was being watched, they released a commercial for this film. We had heard about this movie. It was originally called God Particle, and we kept hearing that it was going to be coming out, but we never heard we never heard anything more than that, and that it was supposed to be the third film in the Cloverfield universe. And then during the Super Bowl, we get a trailer for this film. And at the very end of the trailer, it goes live on Netflix as soon as the game ends. So the shock factor was there right from the get-go. And this is something that J.J. Abrams does phenomenally for the Cloverfield franchise. The first Cloverfield movie, he didn't drop a trailer for it, I think, until a week or two before it actually came out. So it had all this mystique and mystery to it, and it was a fantastic film. Same thing with 10 Cloverfield Lane. They shot that movie with the intent of calling it something different and not letting anyone know that it was a Cloverfield movie, once again, up until under a month before the movie came out, and then they dropped it that it was a Cloverfield film. Same thing with this. The marketing for this was brilliant. Problem was the movie sucked. The acting in the movie was horrifically bad. The only performance that I can remember that was slightly good was Gugu Mbatha Raw. I'm butchering the hell out of that name. She plays Hamilton. Basically, what's going on is that this movie's kind of taking place congruently with the first Cloverfield film. These people are in space, and they're basically testing a device to solve an energy crisis for Earth, but in the process, they end up facing some dark alternate reality, and it's just all over the place. It's supposed to come off scary, it just comes off laughably bad, and because of what they do here is what causes the chain reaction to what happens in Cloverfield. The way they connect this to Cloverfield is basically the Hamilton character's husband is basically down in New York City during the Cloverfield attack. So whenever they break away from the space station, they basically are showing him kind of going through the scenes of Cloverfield. He was never in the first film of Cloverfield, so they kind of just copied and pasted him into the situations of the movie. That stuff was interesting because I loved the first film, but it feels like an entirely different movie than Cloverfield Paradox. It's just a horribly bad film. It's on Netflix if you guys want to see it. The rest of the cast, you've got David Oyelowo. God, I suck with names. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm not a good name person. I butcher them, and let's face it, my last name is something that people have butchered for the longest time. But he was in Selma. He played basically, I believe, the Martin Luther King character in Selma. I personally never saw that, but I heard great things from that actor. He's okay in this movie. You got Daniel Bruhl. He was in Captain America Civil War. You got John Ortiz. You got Chris O'Dowd. Zia Zhang. You got Askell Henny. Like, a lot of actors that people don't know first off. Or you got Elizabeth Debicki. She's in this. I didn't know her at all, but then she ended up having one of the better performances of the year in Widows. So, I mean, if you want to see her go from one spectrum to the next, I mean, that's helpful. But the movie's just very, very dull. It's boring. There's one cool scene in the movie with an arm. That's pretty much the only highlight of the movie besides maybe the actual Cloverfield scenes. But the movie was just downright disappointment. And was just very poorly written and just very, very badly done overall. And so Cloverfield Paradox is the number 3 movie, or number 4 worst film of the year. Going to number 3, for the longest time, and like I said earlier, there are 2 movies on this list that I did not see, and they are the number 1 and number 2 ranks. So this is personally the worst movie that I have physically watched this year. So if you want to call this my number 1, go ahead, but I'm just going to rank it number 3 because the other 2 movies were so damn bad I just couldn't watch them. And that is The Strangers Prey at Night. This is the sequel to the first film, which was called The Strangers, and it had Liv Tyler in it. And it was actually, the first film was actually a really intriguing movie overall. It's basically about these 3 crazy murderous people. They go by basically their mask's name. You have Dollface, you got Pinup, and you got Man in the Mask. And basically they are just 3 random people who just randomly go up to a house and start terrorizing this married couple and tries to murder them. And that's basically the whole extent of the plot of Strangers. It was very well done, even though the beginning of the movie does not match the way the movie ended, which really bugged me. But in this one, in Strangers Prey at Night, this time around, there's a very dysfunctional family. You've got, and they actually have bigger names for this movie. You got Christina Hendricks from Mad Men. She plays the mother, Cindy. You got Martin Henderson, for people who are fans of The Ring, or for anyone who watched Grey's Anatomy. He was in there. He plays the husband, Mike. And then you got the 2 kids. You got Bailey Madison, who plays Kenzie, and then you got Lewis Pullman, who plays Luke, who had a fantastic performance later in the year in Bad Times at the El Royale. If you want to hear me discuss that film, there's a review for that on the channel also. But basically, I think, if I remember right, because this movie's been out since May, they're going to, I think, like, they're getting ready to send the daughter off to, like, some specialty school because she keeps, fucking up. And they're going to go stay with I think, one of the relatives for the night. I think it was, like, the brother or sister or uncle or something of one of the parents. Like I said, it's been a while, so I don't fully remember the whole plot. But they're staying at a mobile home park, and the 3 stalkers, Dollface, Pinup, and Man of Masks, show up. And it's basically a whole terrorize. And not only this, but they have terrorized that entire neighborhood. So basically, it's a dead neighborhood. They basically have hit house to house to house, killing people, and the mobile home is basically next on the list. The acting in this is subpar at best. The reason why this movie is so awful and bad is nothing infuriates me more especially in horror for the most part, when characters act so amazingly stupid. There are scenes of the death of Christina Hendricks' character Cindy is probably the dumbest death of the year. There is so many opportunities where the Cindy character could have fought back and stopped one of the strangers from killing her, and she literally just lets herself die. And it is the dumbest scene. I'm sorry, Christina Hendricks, not that she's a big girl, but I mean, she could probably put up a good fight. All this woman has is a fucking knife, and Cindy probably could have disabled the girl from the knife and beat the hell out of this girl. But instead, she literally just turns her back so that way her daughter can escape through the top of the mobile home and just lets herself get killed. I mean, it's so blatantly dumb. Then they have, even though this was a highlight scene of the film, you got Lewis's Pullman character, Luke. He's got a fantastically shot scene at a pool where he's fighting Man on the Mask and I believe Pinup. And it's shot very well, and it's super intense. But then the final part of the film, he's in the water with Man in the Mask, and he just starts running through the water to get out of the pool. It's a pool. What's going to be faster for you? Running through the water or swimming? Naturally, he basically runs. Man in the Mask, who was knocked out at the time he started running, rises up, catches him, stabs him. If the Luke character would have just swam, he probably would have gotten out of the pool in enough time to not have gotten caught by Man in the Mask. And then the end of the movie was utterly ridiculous. These stalkers are supposed to be real people. They're not superhuman. They're not supernatural in any way. They're just regular people who are crazy, who want to cause havoc and murder. And the Kenzie character basically gets into the final battle with Dollface and Man in the Mask. Dollface goes down relatively quick. Man in the Mask basically turns into Jason at the end of this movie. You literally have to blow this man up in order to kill him. The dude gets shot, stabbed, run over, lit on fire, and he still keeps coming. I'm sorry, but no. This is supposed to be a real guy, and they basically treat him like Jason to the point by the end of the movie you're just like, fuck this, I'm done. This is so stupid. This movie had a lot to go into it because the first film was so very popular that this movie was just utter trash. It's poorly written. The only character that I thought was actually done properly was the Mike character played by Martin Henderson. And his death was actually tragic. It was a sad death. I actually felt for the guy when he died. That and the pool scene are really the only memorable scenes in this movie. Other than that, the whole movie, it's poorly acted by the young actors. Like I said, stupidity all throughout, and just unbelievableness near the end of the film. And that's why this ranks as technically my number one worst movie of the year, because it's the only one I watched. But overall, it is number 3. Number 2, like I said, never saw this, but it just, the news surrounding it and just how badly it was received. It got a 0 on Rotten Tomato. For people who don't know how Rotten Tomato works, actually, honestly, a lot of people misunderstand how Rotten Tomato works. A lot of people look at the percentage of Rotten Tomato and they think that that's the score of the movie. So if you get a movie that's a 94%, people think that it's basically a 9.4 out of 10. That is not at all how Rotten Tomato works. Basically, that means that 94% of the reviewers liked the movie. That doesn't mean that they thought it was a 9 out of 10. It could have been a 6.5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10, but that's considered positive in Rotten Tomato terms. And so you could have a movie that was rated a 90, 92 overall on Rotten Tomato, but the average score is a 6.5 out of 10. That doesn't make it a great movie. That makes it a solid movie that most people were okay with. But because so many people were okay with it, it got a high Rotten Tomato score. Now, these two movies, though, number 1 and number 2, both got 0s. Meaning, not a single reviewer loved these movies. And the average review is under a 3 out of 10. And this second one is John Travolta's Gotti. Now, I get that there are a lot of people who like this movie. You're lying. This movie's trash. It's like I said, I personally just couldn't sit there and watch it. I've heard how bad it is. I've watched multiple reviews explaining it, spoiler reviews explaining it. This movie sounds atrocious. John Travolta apparently puts a horrible performance in as John Gotti. The son in the movie, I think it's Spencer Rocco LaFranco. He's apparently really poor in this film. The movie makes no sense. Apparently it jumps in and out between present day, which is Gotti's ghost literally talking to you as his ghost, but then also talking to himself, which makes no sense at all. It's just a horrible film. I don't want to talk too much about it. If you want to hate watch it and like it that way, then I can see how you like it. But anyone who says that this movie was good, either you have... like I said, everyone's opinion is valid. Some people like bad movies, but I find it very hard to believe that people actually enjoyed this movie unless they're trying to say it like The Room. The Room is one of the worst films ever made. People love it because it's so bad that they love it. That doesn't make the movie good. That makes it so bad that it's fun to watch. And that's maybe what Gotti is to some people. But as a film, this movie is probably one of the worst of the year. It is not number one, though. The number one movie, I have never hate watched a trailer so much in my life, where literally every time this trailer came on, I got physically angry because of how bad this movie looked. And then, this movie's currently out in theaters, by the way. It's a 0 on Rotten Tomato right now. I'm sure, and what's funny is that with Gotti, it's got a 0, but its audience score is actually pretty solid. I think it's dropping. I think it's bad now. When it first came out, it was solid because people were trying to just be against reviewers. This one is horrible for audiences and reviewers alike. I refuse to pay money to see this movie. I wouldn't even watch this movie if someone gave it to me. And that is Holmes and Watson. I love Will Ferrell. I love John C. Reilly. I loved their movies together with Talladega Nights. Step Brothers, I wasn't a big fan of it when it first came out, but after watching it times after that, I grew to love that movie. It's very quotable. It's a hell of a lot of fun to watch. This movie looks utterly stupid. It looks like there's no plot to this film. It looks like it's just a bunch of separate little scenes where Riley and Will Ferrell just do stupid antics as Sherlock Holmes and Watson. There's no redeeming qualities of this trailer at all. Every scene, like they discover the no-shit Sherlock in this movie. The poster itself is bad, where they're doing hand signals to match their names. The movie is just so poorly done. It is easily the worst film of the year, and like I said, anyone who watches it, I feel sorry for you. If you actually paid money for this, you should demand a refund when this movie comes out, or if you actually went to see this movie. But there's not one scene in this film that even remotely made me chuckle, or even smart or smile or smirk. It is easily going to be the worst movie of the year. I can't think of anything that would be worse than it, and that's including Gotti. At least Gotti's trying to make a decent film. They just fail at it. This movie, I don't even understand why they even made it. It's just literally, it's John C. Reilly, and they decided, let's just let them do their own thing. And it looks like it failed miserably. So that's basically it. That is my top 5 worst movies of 2018. I'm sure this movie will be liked or disliked by many for people who liked these films. Like I said, everyone's opinions are different. You might like these movies. I personally did not, and that's why it's my list. But yeah, if you guys like the video, hit that like button. If you guys want to share the video, go ahead and do that. If you guys want to leave comments on the video, feel free to do that as well, or over on the Facebook page. There's more videos coming down here this next week. You also have the most disappointing movies of the year. You also have the most surprising films of the year, and then obviously top films of the year coming as well in the next week or so. So like I said, go ahead and hit subscribe to the channel so you guys are staying up to date with that. and over on the Facebook page. And until next time, Movie Crusaders, until I see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night.